Everyone, welcome back to Juggling Gym. Today we are going to be learning how to juggle 3 balls. So if you don't have juggling balls already, you can check out this link that will hopefully appear, and you can learn how to make juggling balls out of aluminum foil, socks, and rice. Once you do that, come back here and we are going to break down how to juggle 3 balls. To juggle 3 balls, you're going to start with just 1 ball. Okay? I know it can be tempting to jump in and think that you can just juggle 3, but unfortunately, it's just not going to work. You're just going to throw the ball for your dominant hand, make a light throw so that it peaks above your head on the other side, and then it's going to fall into the non-dominant hand. So it's going to look like this. And you can notice the ball sort of travels in a figure 8 pattern. So you want to practice that from both sides until it feels really comfortable. And then once that feels good, you can move on to 2 balls. You're going to take 1 ball in your dominant hand, the other ball in your non-dominant hand, and you're going to make a light throw from your dominant hand. You're going to wait, and I really want to emphasize this, you have to wait until the first ball peaks. Once that ball peaks, then you throw the other one. So there's like a distinct pause between those 2 throws. Throw, throw. A lot of times when people say they can juggle 2 balls, they will try to do this. Okay, so that is not going to help you with 3 balls, unfortunately. You really need to practice the 2 ball exchange in order to have that skill. You might find that this is actually a little bit harder than you would think. It looks simple, but it's actually not intuitive at all, so don't be discouraged if you try to do this and it just doesn't work. Just keep practicing and eventually you'll get it. Once you can do it from your dominant side, you want to practice with your non-dominant hand. It's super important for you to practice with your non-dominant hand, or it's going to be super hard for you to get 3 balls to work. Once you can do the pattern starting with your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand, you should practice alternating between each side. So you'll notice that this is basically what 3 balls is. There's a little gap between switching sides, and that's where the 3rd ball can go. So I'm going to show you, kind of exaggerate the empty hand so that you can see it. So throw, throw, there's the 3rd one, 3rd one. There's the 3rd ball. This is called the 2 ball exchange. If you can get this down, then you can do 3 balls. Once you feel like you can do this very easily, you can move on to the 3rd ball. So you're going to hold 2 balls in your dominant hand and 1 in your non-dominant hand. When you're just learning, you always want to start like this. 1 ball is being held in my palm, and then the other one is being held between my index finger and my middle finger. And this red ball is the first one that's going to be released. So as I alluded to earlier, basically when you're doing the 3 ball pattern, it's going to be the same as 2 balls, but we've just put the extra ball where the gap was in the 2 ball exchange. So it's going to go first red, then yellow, then white. Then red, yellow, white. And it just continues that way. So you can see it's following that same pattern I just mentioned. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the height of the throw and what kind of implications that has for your juggling. So the higher you throw, the slower the pattern is going to be and the more time that you have. But the downside is that you're going to have to make more accurate throws. I like to bring it down and do it lower. It requires a lot less accuracy on my part, and I don't have to think about the throws as much. The downside is that when I do it lower, it's a lot faster. So this is probably how I would normally juggle 3 balls. But if you try this initially, it's just not going to work. And so here you can see it's a lot slower, right? But I really have to work to keep it accurate because this is not how I juggle 3 balls anymore. Play around with the height and the speed of the throw and figure out what feels most comfortable to you and what is actually working. Unfortunately, when you first start out, it probably is not going to feel natural, and it might take you a while before you can run the pattern for a long time. So let's break down a few common mistakes that I've seen when I've been teaching people how to juggle. So I remember when I was learning how to juggle three balls, the main problem that I had was I kept moving forward when I was doing the pattern. I start off here, and then each successive throw would get farther and farther away. Okay, so that's very common. What helped me was I juggled in front of a wall, and that seemed to work because I was forced to kind of keep it in one plane. You can also try juggling over a bed. The main thing that you should do if you run into any kind of problem with your throws being inconsistent, you want to go back to the basics. Don't be afraid to go back to two balls and just work on the two ball exchange, and make sure that when you do the two ball exchange, you're not moving forward then. Because if you're moving forward during the two ball exchange, you're definitely going to have more problems when you are doing three balls. You can also feel free to go back to one ball. There's really no rush in learning this pattern, and it's more important to have the basics down than to try to rush and get a pattern that actually doesn't work very well. Another problem I see is people can do three tosses, but when they get to that fourth toss, they don't know what to do. What I would recommend is that you throw three and then just try to throw the fourth one. Like, don't even worry about catching it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So then you've gotten used to that release. And then once that feels like something you can do, then you can move on to 5 throws, and then 6 throws, and then before you know it, you'll actually be juggling. Stay tuned for a video on how to do that. A similar problem that you might have is you just don't know how to start the pattern. I would suggest that you just try to throw all of them and don't worry about catching. And once the throw feels comfortable, you'll be able to actually catch them and juggle. So you can just feel free to do this. Feels kind of silly, but it will help you get over that block of starting. Another problem I see really has to do with the two ball exchange, and then it bleeds over to the three ball cascade. So what happens is people don't wait for that pause in between the two throws. If you rush the pause between the two, it's going to feel like the pattern is really chaotic, and it's going to be really hard for you to actually juggle three balls. So remember, you're just going to wait between throws. Really, watch this video several times and try to get the timing that I'm doing down. That is pretty much everything that I know about teaching people how to juggle three balls. If you have any questions, just leave something in the comments and I can try to help you out. Also, if you like this video, like it on YouTube, that helps me. And then subscribe to the channel. I'll be releasing new videos every Sunday, so make sure you subscribe so that you can get notified when I release those.